There. And then I'm going to share it with you and Karim and Gail if you want.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Nayr, mother, what was it like to raise a multilingual family? How many children have you got?
It's one. It's Karim.
Oh,
Yeah.
Karim.
So it's just one. Yeah, yeah. What was it like? I think the first thing I would like to say is that it didn't come, it sort of came naturally because I was already brought up multilingual. So, I mean, this idea of living with multiple languages wasn't something new. So it wasn't something that I had to necessarily really struggle with, which I didn't. And so the decisions I made was sort of, I think, mostly based on my own experience of growing up multilingual. So, however, obviously there are always decisions to make, and I think, with multilingualism, it's all very contextual. It really depends on the very specific situation you're in, the family situation that you're in. So, when Karim was born actually in Portugal, and I had been brought up in South Africa. So I already had, English and Afrikaans and Portuguese at home, and I had done French at school. So when Karim was born in Portugal with, the family in Portugal, so grandparents, cousins, uncles, everything, my first reaction was, okay, so we're going to speak English at home so that he learns English. He's got Portuguese in the community, so we'll speak English at home. And I started that right from the start. Then Karim's dad was Egyptian, so there was Arabic in the mix. And that I left up to dad. I mean, I couldn't really deal with that. So I left it up to dad. So,
Non c'è
so,
barone qua, scusa, ho spento io.
hi.
Hello, Marco, welcome.
Hi, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yes, I'll continue. So, yeah, so that was the decision I made. And also, the interesting thing was that English was then our home language as well. Because Karim's father didn't speak. There's Stefania.
Oh,
Hi.
Steffi.
Nice to see you, my dear. We can't hear you. You're on mute.
Let's see.
Let's see if she comes. Yeah. Okay.
Fatto.
Hey,
Hey, hoe gaan het met
Marco, nice
jou?
to meet you.
Auto met jullie te werk.
Ja, het is goed om jij te zien.
Jij lijkt zo
We have to do the Afrikaans thing here.
Kanchani.
Hello, ¿qué tal, Steffi? ¿Cómo se va?
Ah, ça va bien, merci. Nair, Nair, Kanjani Wena.
Konjani, Sawubona, Sanibona.
Zulu, the world languages.
Yeah, it's so good. So I was just saying how I was brought up multilingual in South Africa, which is like the most normal thing in the world, wasn't it? And so when Karim was born, there was a decision we made about speaking English at home because also Karim's dad didn't speak Portuguese when he came to Portugal because he came to Portugal. So English had to be our home language. So that became, English. But it was very funny though because Karim, I think he understood what I was going on when I was speaking English, but he didn't reply in English. He always replied in Portuguese. Do you remember that, Karim?
I mean, not really, to be honest. I think I only remember speaking English with you.
Oh,
Actually, not Portuguese. But probably
Yeah.
because I forgot that first stage.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Yeah, go on, Annie.
and how did you start speaking Arabic, Karim?
So that one was quite late. So I think that was the only language I actually struggled with when I was young. And actually, because my dad we all used to speak English at home, and I think my dad got used to, after a while, to speaking English. I think he spoke a bit Arabic initially, but that, to be honest, I couldn't even remember. So I actually picked it up at university later on. So the exposure I had to Arabic was mainly with my Egyptian family. So I had words, etc., but I couldn't really form any sentence properly. And my dad used to translate. So a lot of my Arabic came from there, but it was quite limited. And then I decided to pick it up at university and learn it properly, in addition to living in Egypt several months, couple of years, to boost my language. But I had some basics because of when I was growing up and going to Egypt and speaking with them on the phone, family, etc. But it was my weakest language.
Because somehow I thought that you would speak Arabic with your father and English with Nayr. But
No,
I had this idea,
yeah,
of course.
I do speak Arabic now, though. Well, I speak Arabic with my dad since, I think, for the past decade, I would say. But when I was young, it was all in English, though, within the family.
Right.
Arabic with my family in Egypt, but my level was very weak. But when my dad, growing up, it was English.
But it was funny though because when Karim, as far as I can remember, Karim, you started learning, you started taking Arabic lessons when you were in Hong Kong,
Yeah, very random.
which was very random indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So,
was 19. I was 19. I think I decided to finally pick it up properly. Because I still lacked quite I mean, I was, I was like a native beginners. So, if it's a thing.
yes, if it's something a native beginner.
Yeah. So, but I really decided to push it further. When I don't know why Hong Kong, but I think I started to realize that I really wanted to pick Arabic up and, be able to speak it with family and beyond as well. Simultaneously, because I was also studying business, IR, etc., and the Middle East was quite prominent as well in the
Right.
family and my interest as well. So I really wanted to mix the family and my interest in the region as well. So I picked up at university second year because I had the opportunity to do it. The professor there was Egyptian actually, as well. So yeah, it happened out of Norway in a way, but I really had this. I think I had it. It was growing for a while that I wanted to pick it up formally and match it with my other languages.
Did you ever? I have always had this question in my mind because of my grandchildren and their future lives.
Mm.
Were there moments when you felt that your multilingualism was a burden more than an advantage?
No, I mean never at all. Actually, for me it was natural.
Yeah.
Honestly, I
Right.
was speaking Portuguese with my family in Portugal, my broken Arabic with my family in Egypt, English with my mom and yeah, and my aunt, French because I grew up in France. So for me, it all happened naturally. I don't really remember the struggles. I don't remember, yeah, feeling uncomfortable or lacking confidence. I just spoke them and that's it. And
That's right.
because I think I started quite young, I picked it up quite naturally.
Right.
I had to do an extra effort for the Arabic later on. But that aside, even the Arabic, I mean, I think I was more annoyed that I could not match my Arabic level to my family's level. And I think that was more annoying to me than actually. So it wasn't then struggling really with it in terms of seeing it as a burden. So no, for me it happened naturally, honestly, and I was
Oh,
able to.
that's great for me to know because I'm
Yeah.
always pushing my daughter with this question of the kids learning languages, which she believes, of course. But then
Yeah.
sometimes I think maybe I am pushing too much.
No,
But no,
honestly.
Can I
I
just
mean,
say
yeah.
something?
yes, Gail.
When I first met Nayr and Karim, which was in 1998, so a long time
Yes.
ago, when Nayr explained to me all the different languages she spoke, which she just thought was nothing, was just ordinary.
Oh,
Oh, you're frozen, Gail.
yeah.
Just what Naya was saying about, for her, it's just natural. Oh, is my connection bad?
Yeah, it
We
was
can
Yeah.
bad
hear
for
you now. We can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you hear what I was saying?
not
That
really
when
very
you,
well.
That when I
I think
first met you.
yeah, no, we didn't hear that.
Oh,
No.
okay. I was saying that when I first met Nayr, which was in 1998, and that's when I met Karim as well, who was a little boy. Nayr was telling me all the languages that she was able to speak, and I was going, wow, that's amazing that you speak so many languages. And it links very much back to what Nayr was saying. It was her natural lived experience to have grown up with all those languages. Whereas for me, you know, I grew up in a monolingual country, a monolingual family, and the only exposure I had to any foreign languages was starting to learn French at secondary school at the age of 11. So I think it's so important what Nayr said, that it is something very natural. And Karim, you just said the same thing as well. It's just natural. And, you know, my two children are bilingual, and they've just grown up naturally like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
It's also context related. I mean,
yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, we ended up with all these languages, as I said, because it was the context, you know,
yes.
where I was born, where Karim was born, then Dad was a different culture and brought in another language. So all of that just, and then we moved to France, you know, we could have moved to Spain instead. It would have been Spanish instead of French. So it is the context. But I also think it is also the how can I say, it wasn't easy. I mean, it wasn't easy. It's not something that, yes, it does just happen. And I love it when Karim says, you know, it's such a natural thing. He says he doesn't remember struggling to, you know, learning any of these languages. And yet there were situations that were difficult. I mean, I remember when we arrived in France, and Karim didn't speak French. So he had English and Portuguese, and his English was actually more receptive than productive, because he used to reply to me in Portuguese all the time. So we were having a conversation. I remember once we were on the plane and we were chatting away, but quite naturally, I hadn't even realized we were doing this. I was speaking to him in English. He was replying in Portuguese. We were having this conversation in English and Portuguese quite naturally. And then when we got on this, you know, on the bus to take you from the plane to the airport, there was this woman, she was Portuguese, and she was saying, I just heard her speaking to someone saying, you know, it was really incredible. There was this mum and the son in front of me. She was speaking in English. He was answering in Portuguese, and they were having a perfectly normal conversation. And I hadn't even realized it. I just thought, oh, that must have been me. I'm thinking to myself, you know, and it was just the most normal thing. So, but there were moments. So that was the moment. So those first 5 years of, because Karim, we lived in Portugal for 5 years, where it was this English Portuguese conversation that we always had. Karim just refused to use English, and he knew I could speak Portuguese, so he just didn't bother. I don't know what was going through his little mind, just didn't bother. And then I worried. I said, is he ever going to actually use English? But I thought, no, I'm going to continue anyway. He understands me, I think, so I'm going to continue. I think the people in Portugal must have thought I was absolute nut. I was a nutter, because I used to walk into shops, Portuguese shops, okay? So I'd be speaking in Portuguese to the shop owner, whatever. I'd turn around to Karim. I'd speak to him in English. He would reply to me in Portuguese. They must have thought I was crazy. You know? I said, what is she doing?
What was the most natural for you, and what was really important. You didn't force it on Karim, like saying you've got to, you know, and which would have perhaps had an even an adverse effect.
Yeah. And I didn't force him. Karim, you must speak English. You must speak English to me. No, I just left it. You know. And then I remember when we arrived in France, and this must have been a couple of months into France. He was already in French school. And then I was thinking to myself, well, that's a real pity, because he spoke Portuguese so well when we left France, because he'd been in a Portuguese preschool. And so I got worried. Now, Portuguese was not in the picture at all. So I thought, oh my God, you know, he's going to forget his Portuguese because there's no one speaking Portuguese with him. And as I had put him in a bilingual English-French school, I thought, well, why don't I speak to him in Portuguese a little bit at home? And so I'll never forget, he was sitting, playing on the floor with his little cars, you know, and then I started speaking Portuguese to him. And I remember he looked up at me and he said, Mom, why are you speaking to me like that? With you, it's English. And I thought, oh my, I had actually built this like relationship in English with him. And even though he replied in Portuguese, for him, Mom was always the English speaker.
It's the affective factor as well.
Absolutely. It's fascinating. And then I thought, okay, fine, this is it. I'm not going to bother with Portuguese. You know, some Portuguese then continued with my parents, because he used to come to Portugal every summer, and he used to spend 2 months in Portugal, because we used to have these July summer classes in Paris, which I had to work through. And in France, the holidays, the school holidays was July and August, and even into like the beginning of September. So I thought, oh my God, what about with Karim? So I sent him to my parents in Portugal. And that's how he continued his Portuguese, because with my parents it was always Portuguese. So there was always these crazy language connections somewhere along the way, you know. But I remember when he joined, when he entered in French school in France, and even though I'd put him in a bilingual English-French school, his French wasn't, obviously there was no French. And I'll never forget one of his teachers. This was his preschool teacher. It was like the end of preschool. So he was 5. He still went to the last year of preschool, and then the following year he went into grade 1. One day I used to get to school with Madame Ibrahim and say, oh God, what's happened this time? It was always like, Madame Ibrahim, what's going on? So Madame Ibrahim, she calls me and said, yes, what's going on? And then she tells me, your son is bringing little cars, his little toy cars to school and giving them away. And I thought, so why would he be doing that? Why is he bringing his little toys cars and giving them away to the little boys, And then she says, well, I don't know. He's doing this. And, I think he's doing this because he wants to make friends with the little boys, with the other children. And then it suddenly dawned on me, oh my God, so this was his strategy. So he didn't have the language. He couldn't communicate with the boys in French. So his strategy was to bribe them. Hey, Karim, you try to bribe them with your little toy car. So he'd bring the cars, give them his cars so that they would play with him. And so I thought, this is where I felt so bad. I think I went home crying actually that day, because I thought, oh my God, what am I doing to my son? Poor thing, he can't communicate in French. And then I think I spoke to him about that. I mean, obviously he won't remember. You don't remember that, do you, Karim? Yeah. I did speak to him about that. And then it all sort of fell into place. But there were these issues, there were these moments that were difficult, where you trying to belong. I think it was also Karim's way of trying to belong, trying to find a way of being part of this new language community that he didn't belong to. And even though his teacher did start off in September coming, you must speak French at home, you must speak French at home. And I said, no. I told her, that's you, that's your job. That's what I told her. That's your job. I'm not going to speak French at home. We speak English at home. And she was not impressed. In December, one of those Madame Ibrahim kind of thing, okay, off I go, what's wrong now, Madame Ibrahim? And she says, you know what? She says, your son's incredible. He speaks French, like all the other children. And I thought to myself, well, that actually isn't a surprise to me, because obviously he's going to learn French. He's not going to learn French. But she was all surprised that, after 3 months, he was actually fine. He was like chatting away. He had friends. He had, and he was chatting away in French. Now, I think at that moment, the big scalp division, the Cummings, BICS and CALP. So, basic interpersonal communicative BICS S, what's the S? Communicative strategies or whatever. That was him. So he was actually able to communicate. He was able to do the BICS. The CALP took a longer time, I think, because that's where you've got to learn the academic language. And I remember that with me, because when I got to school in South Africa, I couldn't speak English. I don't know if you had the same situation, Stefania, but I didn't speak English.
What you're saying now is exactly what happened with my daughter. I spoke English the whole time in South Africa. And
Okay.
my dad insisted in a nice way I go to Società Dante Alighieri to learn Italian. And at the time, I was with Spanish and mainly Portuguese friends at school. And then my brother got married to an Afrikaans-speaking girl. So this was the Afrikaans-speaking background. And also my aunt married an Afrikaans-speaking man. So there were all these different sounds, and then there was the gardener who was Zulu, and basically,
You speak Zulu also, Steffi, right?
yeah, I do. Not very well.
Mm.
But for example, going back to what Nayr said about my daughter and myself, we fight in English.
Oh,
Arguments, it's in English, and I've got to praise her. It's in English because it's my language.
right.
If we're having an argument and she sort of says, "Okay, Mom, speak to you later," then it's in Afrikaans.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, yeah, I think do you know what? When I get angry, even though I might be speaking English at that time, when I get really angry or I have to use a swear word, I swear not in Spanish, I swear in Argentine Spanish.
Okay, that's
Not even in Spain Spanish, but in Argentine Spanish. Because
Definitely
that's how you feel.
yeah, that's how the strong feelings come
Yeah,
out, isn't
yeah.
it?
And differently from Karim, Georgia had a few problems, but she was far too young, most probably, to realize. But she came home from preschool and she said, "Mom, how many tongues have I got?" Because
Tongues.
Italian lingua is
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
so I said, "Why, sweetheart?" She said, "Because one of my friend's mum said to the teacher, 'Where is that little girl with the 3 tongues?'" My son said that in the there's a little girl who has 3 different lingua, 3 tongues.
Yes.
She chops and changes. And but she didn't realize this maybe. She had a few problems because she'd hear the family say to me, "Why are you speaking in English or in Afrikaans to your daughter and you're in Italy?" So I always had to say, I'm not saying anything bad about anybody, but it's just the way my daughter and I communicate. And then when she was 10, I bought her a ticket and I sent her to Canada, where she was staying in a sort of campsite with Spanish from Mexico and Colombia. And when she came back home, she was 10 years old, she said, "Mom, guapa." She was speaking a bit of Spanish. We have a little place in Valais in Switzerland. So in the summer, she'd go to like a preschool for a month with the French speaking children. And now she's working in Switzerland, in the French canton. And it's a blessing, I think, with all the languages that she immediately got a job as a doctor in Switzerland, where she uses all these languages. And whenever she goes to South Africa, she makes it a point of learning as much as Zulu and other languages, Ndebele. She says, "Mom, this is Sotho," as much as she can. And it comes natural, like Karim, with music to my ears when he says, "It's just natural."
Yes.
Yeah.
Karim
it's,
and Torta are very lucky.
yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and
But it's
when I
interesting
listen,
sorry, go on.
when I hear my grandchildren also, when I hear them speaking Portuguese and then English and then Spanish, I really feel so proud. I'm so happy for them because, of course, they don't realize now, but I see all the world opening to them.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but you see, that's why it's so depressing when I have people or mums, say, oh no, it's too much. I'm not going to speak my language because of this reason. Oh my God, I just want to pull out my hair. I just go, oh no, please don't do that, because the one thing children do is regret not learning their heritage language, not the other way around.
Right.
And I'll never forget Karim, when I told Karim, when he started, like when I found out he was like taking Arabic lessons in Hong Kong, and I thought, in Hong Kong, I thought you were going to learn Mandarin or Cantonese. I mean, now it's Arabic. And he said, yeah. And then I remember telling him, and you know what, your dad used to speak Arabic to you, and he used to have all these, these Arabic nursery rhymes and that. And he used to sing to you when you were a baby. Karim turned around and said, so why didn't he just continue? Now I've got all the hard work of learning it myself as an adult. That's what he said. I said, well, go and talk to your dad about that one, because I could not handle the Arabic. I told his dad, listen, you do the Arabic. I've got Portuguese, French, English to deal with. You do the Arabic. I can't do that as well. But he stopped speaking Arabic to him. I think in his head it's, oh no, it's too much. I remember him saying once, no, it's too much. And I said, it's not too much, because he's always going to associate Arabic with you. So that's a very clear line. Okay, Dad, Arabic. And it's not too much. I mean, it wasn't too much. Karim was just saying he did pick up Arabic through the translation, through words that he picked up when he was in Egypt. So it wasn't too much. It's never too much. And that's what I think is the message that I try and convey to people when I do my, when I do my talks, when I do my stuff around multilingualism, is that it isn't too much. Children actually really appreciate it, that you're teaching them your language and your languages, and that you do it when you're young, because that's when it becomes natural.
That's right.
You see, it's when it starts young. So
that's what I told my niece's father-in-law. I told him Arabic is a difficult language to learn. So if Habib begins learning Arabic now that he's a baby, he's now 4 years old, it's going to be so easy for him because he already has Spanish and English. Now, when I, for example, when I went to visit them in April, he said, "Oh, Auntie speaks Spanish," and my niece said, "Yes, Auntie speaks Spanish and English." So he sometimes talked to me in Spanish and sometimes talked to me in English. But now he knows that his grandfather can speak in another language that we don't speak. So it's great. So he's beginning to do that with his grandfather. And I think that's so important, particularly with languages as difficult as Arabic, for example.
Yes. But you see, they're only difficult when you're not actually learning or speaking them. Because when you're actually starting from young, I mean, people say Portuguese is a difficult language. They say Portuguese is a difficult language to learn with all the grammar. And I mean, I don't know that it's difficult because I've spoken Portuguese right from the start.
I can tell you,
you can tell.
Yeah, because I started learning it, and people think it's easy. That is, Spanish speakers think it's easy because it's similar to Spanish, and I say no, it's not.
No. There are some verb tenses that you really need to use them from the very young age to just understand how to use them sort of automatically and intuitively, which, I think I think it would be difficult for an outsider to actually finally learn to use them intuitively. But I mean, all languages have that. All languages have their difficulty, but it's not difficult. That's just the thing. It's not difficult when you start from when you're young. It's just natural. So it doesn't matter how difficult Portuguese might be. For me, it's not difficult. So, Arabic is difficult for us because we don't know the script and we don't know the language. But for an Arabic speaker and a child learning Arabic, it's not difficult. It's just natural.
Find Spanish difficult. And I'm so glad I am a native speaker of Spanish and I didn't have to study it. Well, at school we did, but not study it as a foreign language because it is really complicated. I mean, just like Portuguese. All those tenses and irregular verbs and things, it's crazy. I always pity people who have to learn Spanish as a foreign language I
Yeah.
mean, it must
But
be so
yeah,
difficult.
but it's funny because Karim learned Spanish as a foreign language. I
And
don't know if you want to tell us a little about
yeah,
that, Karim.
please do, Karim.
Yeah, no, I think I was 13, I think, when I started. So I continued throughout the years, even at university. So that was good. So I kept it. But I think that what was funny is that initially, when I used to write, I think that the professors used to tell me off about me writing in Spanish, French, and Portuguese, basically. But I used to use the Portuguese words or sometimes French words that came intuitively that were sometimes quite similar but incorrect. Or if they weren't similar, it was just wrong. So I used to mix up the languages quite a lot in the first few years. But then I was able to more like differentiate. But it's true that
Yeah.
initially it was a bit difficult, but it's okay though, because I guess I was thinking in French off because there was a lot of similarities between the two.
Yeah. One thing that I sometimes I wanted to ask you, do you ever mix languages? Do you ever feel that there are certain things that you can express in one language much better than in the others that you speak?
Yeah, I would say yes. I think I have different associations with each language. So my most advanced, I would say, is English and French. But I still prefer using English overall, in every context,
Uh-huh.
for every context. But yeah, there is a bit of a ranking. I mean, yeah, even I mean, it also depends who I'm with. If I'm with people that are bilingual, I may sometimes switch up between languages. I'll code switch quite often. But if I'm dealing with someone who's, let's say, monolingual, or to keep it simply, I think my brain really locks in a bit more, and I avoid code switching
Mm,
actually.
mm,
But
mm.
when I'm with friends, sometimes a lot of my friends speak multiple languages, like French, for example, and sometimes I'll switch up between French and English, or yeah, with some friends.
But we do loads of code switching in the family. I mean, we are
Yeah,
moving languages all the time. When I think now it's more perhaps French, English, and Portuguese, but when we were in France, I remember once, and we were sitting in the lounge. The television is going on in French. Karim and Dad are sort of going on at something in Arabic. Then I'm speaking to him in English, and he's on the phone with my mom in Portuguese. So all this was happening at the same time. Yeah, very nice. All this was happening at the same time. So, all the four languages happening at the same time. I remember thinking, gosh, okay, this is really crazy. But it's just possible. That's just the
Yeah.
thing. It is just possible because at that moment it's the languages that we needed for that particular moment.
Yeah.
So, but I like the way Karim says, like his brain locks in. I like that expression actually. His brain locks in on the one language when you know that you have to speak just French or English when you're in that context. And it does. It actually,
Yeah.
you just sort of, it's like you move on to that lane
Mm.
and you stay on that lane because you know that that's the context. And then you move back across, or then you just switch, you move between lanes or something like that all the time. And I think that's the whole concept of translanguaging, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because translanguaging is more. I mean, in the literature, you always sort of separate it from code switching because translanguaging is just also how multilinguals function. It's not just about switching languages. It really is that identity that you have as a multilingual, where you use your languages quite freely and flexibly depending on what you need and which one you need at a particular moment. And I think we've done that a lot. And it is that identity. When we're in Portugal, and we come to Portugal every year, in the summer and in the winter, because my mom lives in Portugal, so we come and stay with her a little bit. We're still working between English and Portuguese. So we always speak English, don't we, Karim, to each other? We always speak English to each other, even though we're in Portugal, which is the weird thing. So we're in a shop. We still continue that actually. And we're doing our shopping. So if we're speaking in English to each other. The guy will come and say, and suddenly they hear us speak English and they will start speaking English to us. We'll turn around to the guy and say, não, também somos português, podemos falar português. We'll say, okay. So it's like, so I'll continue. So Karim and I will continue talking about what we want to buy in English, and then we switch to the guy speaking Portuguese, and then the guy must be thinking, what the hell's going on here, it is just what we do.
Yeah.
And even at home, with my mom is here. She's so used to it. She doesn't even bother anymore. But we'll be chatting in English, and then I switch to my mom in Portuguese. Then I switch to English again. And even though we both of us can speak Portuguese, but it's that identity thing. So when I look at Karim, it's English that comes out of my mouth. Hey, Karim.
No, even when we're out with other people in France or other places, we all speak French, but we'll still speak in English.
Yeah, we still switch in English to each
With my
other.
dad, I'll speak Arabic if he's around. If we're around other people, well, I'll still speak Arabic with him, and then switch to the other person. And even though we're all having a conversation, the three of us, I will actually, to be honest, refuse to speak the same language with my dad, so that the other person understands. But we'll adapt though. Sometimes you gotta, if people don't speak their language. But with my dad, for example, as well, I'll just speak Arabic, even though we may be having a multiple conversation with other people. So I'll switch it up again.
Mm.
Yeah.
And now coming to teaching, what are the biggest misconceptions that about maintaining multiple languages, that for example, that you find in teacher training? Because I think that teachers may have really serious concerns about, particularly when they don't speak the language, the heritage language of their students. So what would you tell teachers about that?
Oh, I mean, the thing is, once again, is how do you convey to teachers who are trained to work in a particular language context and for a particular language teaching? Okay, so let's say Portuguese teachers, even Portuguese teachers of English, that's their context. They're in Portugal, they're Portuguese teachers, but they are teaching English. But it's like, how do you convey this idea that of this flexibility in moving in and out of languages, using different languages? It's okay if you don't understand one of the languages, because I mean, in our family, for example, Arabic was part of our family, but Arabic was the one language that most of us didn't understand, but it was still there. It's fine. It's okay. So we don't all understand Arabic. It's not the big deal. We can get around it. We switch between languages. Now I'm living in Norway, for example. It's taken a while to learn Norwegian, but there are languages there that so the language is there. I'm learning it. I still don't speak it very well, but it's not something that I am very comfortable with. But it's okay. It's a kind of, so what I do a lot when I do teacher training is I use visual methods. So that we can start talking about languages in the plural, or my languages, through visual methods. Because as soon as you start talking about language, because language is a very lingual thing, it's all about language, it's about communication. And when you don't have the level, or you don't know the languages, then that communication is difficult and you can't communicate, can you? So the way to actually help teachers embrace this idea of multilingualism is by using these visual methods, so that they don't have to actually use the languages. And then, because there's also this thing about, I mean, I have to admit, and I'm a language teacher, I'm multilingual, and this is what I tell my teachers all the time. And yet when I open my mouth and try and speak Norwegian, I feel horrible. I said, oh my God, I sound like a beginner. I can't express myself. I don't sound like the person that I want to sound like, as someone who knows what they're talking about in terms of language, or so I can't express myself in the same way. It's very frustrating. So I have to tell myself what I tell my students all the time. It's not a big deal. It's not a problem. Just use the language, use what you know. And yet I go through the same thing, feeling very uncomfortable. Oh my God. But it's like, how do you, it's how you get the teachers to embrace all of the languages. And when you do it visually, when you get them to draw out, for example, language maps, or fill in a language map, a language portrait silhouette and stuff like that, suddenly all the little bits of languages they know sort of appear on these drawings, or because they don't have to use the language. They can just put it in there. It becomes a drawing, it becomes something visual, and then they can talk around their languages. So, teachers say, oh, well, I've got Russian because I learned Russian like 10 years ago. I only know a couple of words. Great, but Russian's on the map. As opposed to if I just ask them, so how many languages do you speak? Nobody speaks fluently 3, 4 languages. It's just not possible because you don't need them. You don't need to be speaking 3 or 4 languages all the time. So that means that you never develop fluency in 3 or 4 languages to the same level, you see, and that's okay. It's also, how do you tell individuals, teachers, mothers and fathers that it's okay if the languages are not fully developed, or, if you're not fluent in every single language that because you just don't need it, So, I mean, my Afrikaans is not as brilliant as Stefania's. I know that because I went to an English-speaking school. Afrikaans was just that subject in school, okay, from grade 1, but it was a subject in school. I mean, we didn't have what we really call bilingual education, where I was learning subject matter through Afrikaans. I was learning Afrikaans as a subject. So even though I can handle it, I can speak it, when I go back to South Africa, it all comes back to me. I understand it perfectly. I have been away from South Africa for decades now, and I struggle to. Oh my God, what is that word again? So because I don't need it.
Yeah,
where I
that
am.
happens to me with French.
Yeah.
I studied French after I graduated as a teacher of English, and I managed to get a very high level of French. But then I didn't have anyone to speak French to, so I gradually lost it. So when I go to France, after a couple of days, that is, I make a point of speaking French. And as you say, I feel frustrated because I used to speak French very well, and now I'm struggling with it. So I get very frustrated. And then I said, Annie, you're doing exactly the same thing. Your students in Spain say when they try to speak English. So I gradually begin to speak it again, little by little. But it's what you say. I mean, I don't use French anymore. So I still understand it because I can understand it perfectly well. I can still read it. I suppose that I would still write in French if I needed to, but I don't. But then when I start trying to speak, it's like, but okay, after I start, I begin remembering things. But I sometimes feel frustrated the same way my students of English feel frustrated with English.
Yeah. No, it is. I mean, Karim learned with Karim is probably you learned Turkish, Karim, a while back.
How many languages do you speak, Karim?
So,
I mean, I would say 5 but I learned Turkish, but I wouldn't say I speak it fluently. So I would say 5 that I
but you
speak.
can communicate. You have survival Turkish.
But yes. I mean, I can't have an extended conversation, so that's why I usually don't count it.
but
I can use words. I can order food. I can say, I can tell people where do I go. So yes, maybe survival, maybe.
yeah,
maybe
but that's a
survival.
language you can use. It's interesting that he says, you see what people do with their languages. They sort of exclude languages that they feel, oh, no, this one, I don't really know this one very well. And Karim's doing the same. You're doing that too. Even though, I mean, how long did you live in Turkey?
3 months.
A few months, okay. But you learned Turkish. You did go to school, didn't you, to learn
Yeah, no, I
Turkish?
learned it actually at university
Yeah,
as well.
proper. Yeah.
And then I
So,
lived there for a bit.
but it is, you see, that using it. So I usually say to my students, oh, excuse me, so that they use the languages. Like, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
So if you don't speak English, like my students are going to become English teachers. If you don't use it, you lose it. You've got to
Yeah.
use the language, So use the language here in the classroom, for example. And that's why, and it isn't necessarily. For example, I am immersed in Norwegian. So I'm living in Norway. That's the national language. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's a natural, you don't naturally pick up a language just because you're in the context. There are so many elements that go, so many factors that come into learning or not learning or picking up a language and maintaining it as well. So, Karim may have lost his sort of bits of his Turkish because he doesn't need it. I mean, you haven't worked with Turkey at all, have you? Have you lately? Yeah.
No.
So, and I'm in Norway, and it's taken me ages to learn Norwegian because I'm learning. I'm in English language education. I'm in the English department. I have to speak English with my students, and everyone in Norway speaks English.
Yeah, that's right. I know because I
So,
have friends who are Norwegian and they do speak English very well, in fact.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. So I'm sort of stuck in a context where I really do want to learn the language, and I'm learning it slowly but surely. But it's not easy because it's not always there. It's not, and I don't have anybody to speak Norwegian to at home. So I think the context is so important. And once again, when I use these visual methods with my students, the context sort of appears. They'll position, or I learned French when I was at school. So there's a drawing of school and there's a couple of like French flag, and there's the context and what happened after that. I learned it or did not learn it, or I maintained it or did not maintain it because I don't need it or I need it. But also, I think in terms of back to the teachers who, yes, of course, they're not going to speak all 10 languages that are in their classroom. I mean, nobody's expecting them to do that.
Yeah.
But why not let the children be the experts in their own languages? Why are you worried about not being able to speak Arabic and Polish and Russian? Let them help you. Let them tell you about their languages instead of panicking about the thing. So that's what I think I try and convey to the teachers. And I think it's more that idea of flexibility, which in multilingual families or multilingual education is key. It's that flexibility. And also the other thing I kept always tell my parents when I was working in France, where I had to talk, I had to work with parents and talk to parents all the time. It was just don't force it. It was always a don't force it. Just let the children do it. They said, oh, that comes with panic. Oh, my child's not using the language, is not using this. So just don't force it. Just carry on speaking the language. As long as the child understands what's going on, they understand what you're saying, just let it go. Don't force it. And then sometimes children will or will not learn that language or use that language. Sometimes children just decide, I don't want to use this language.
Yeah.
Full
Mm.
stop. And
Yeah.
you can force it. All you're going to do is make them hate the language.
That's
So,
it. Mm.
so I think it's more a matter of letting it flow, perhaps. I don't know. I think that's how we did it at home. Hey, Karim, I don't know. Did you ever feel forced?
No, no, no.
Yeah, I really did try not. Yeah, sorry, go on. No.
No, no, no,
Yeah,
no,
I
never.
really, yeah, I really did try not to force. I mean, the one thing I wanted to do was teach him Portuguese. I did try to teach him reading and writing in Portuguese, and that did not work. I remember sitting down, I can't even, I even bought books when I used to come to Portugal. I bought books for him to do, and honestly, he would just sit there looking at me as if to say, nah, this is not going to happen, Mom. And I was trying really nicely to do, and he was just like, mm-mm. Uh-uh. And I gave up. I said, this is not going to work. Yeah, I'm going to end up making him hate Portuguese
That's
if I
right.
do this.
Yeah.
And I could see he was speaking, so we let it go. And anyway, and then he learned to read and write it all by himself. Basically, I mean, do you remember learning to read and write Portuguese, Karim? Because you can read, at least read. Writing may be a bit of a mix with Spanish and Brazilian Portuguese and whatnot, but you can read. Do you
No,
remember the process?
no, really. I mean, watching TV and movies and everything in Portugal. That would be the main, or the soap operas. I remember trying to read some books in Portuguese. They don't last very long because it's not my preferred reading language. I usually read in English or French, but I did the same with Spanish. But I think generally, you know, I mean, yeah, I think it's mainly just through daily life. I think that's how I picked it up. Basically.
But I also think using your other languages, because I remember
Yes,
once
yeah.
we were reading signs, for example, there was a sign and a sign in Portuguese. Okay, it was the word information. Okay, so he started reading the word and he was going informar. He was reading it in French. He was reading the sign informar, informação. And then he switched. So he's reading the word in French, information, and then he switched quickly to informação. So he was actually using his other languages to help him work out Portuguese. And that's how I think that is how, and yes, the input, you know, from TV being in Portugal, but that's how he learned how to read the language, was through the languages he knows, making those hypotheses about, okay, this must be information, because it's starting, you know, and I think that's what, and that's why, you know, you don't really need to read and write. You don't learn to read and write more than once. You learn to read and write once. And then you use transfer and your knowledge of other languages to learn to read and write other languages, you know. And you basically have to learn, you know, all the different grammatical rules, etc. Of course, in languages like Arabic and even Turkish, there's different scripts and different things that you need to pick up. But then you've learned how to read and write. You know what to do with the script. You know what to do with the accents. You know what they're there for. You know, so yeah. So I think that's how he learned. That's at least that's how I remember you learning to read Portuguese. But it's interesting that Karim says Portuguese is not his favorite reading language. It's interesting how we got favorite languages for different things.
So, Karim, which are your favorite languages for which things?
I mean, yeah, I mean, for me, so English, I would say everything, literally everything. Even most of my readings are in English. French, yeah, I read in French, and I actually enjoy reading in French. I always follow.
You lived in France for a long time, right?
Yeah, I grew up in France, 5 to 17.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I have that connection, which I think is a bit stronger. Portuguese, I see it more as family, holidays. There's that connection, you know. I do follow, you know, a bit French news, Portuguese news and everything, but it's true that I don't really pick up a book in Portuguese naturally. Yeah, I mean Spanish because I've been able to learn. I learned it for 10 years, so I was able to keep it, but I don't use it as much anymore. It depends what friends I'm with, but I don't use it as much. Arabic, I use it a lot I actually use it a lot for news actually as well, and family and my dad, family news, because I get access to information on Middle East, I guess, through Arabic that I wouldn't necessarily get outside.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, exactly. So I have
So
yeah.
So it's interesting with Al Jazeera, you know, and I remember so Karim's dad saying that the Arabic news, so the Al Jazeera Arabic, the news is very different from Al Jazeera English.
Because I sometimes watch Al Jazeera in English, but of course I don't speak Arabic, so I don't know the difference.
Yeah, I mean, no, Al Jazeera I would say is one of my favorite news because they provide a better viewpoint on things generally. And even the investigations are much more interesting and in-depth and more nuanced. The Arabic, I would say, is much more partisan. Yeah, I would say the English, they try to cater to a very broad audience, much more, whereas the Arabic is much more partisan, basically. And I think they're much more outspoken on issues. They'll be more direct and blunt on issues, actually. That's, I would say, is the main difference.
I will try to see if my TV allows me to put subtitles so that I can
Oh, yeah.
listen to it in Arabic and have the subtitles.
Yeah.
That would be a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because,
Like,
for example, that's something that I like about uh, being able to understand different languages. And in my case, that I can watch news in different channels other than mainstream or hear Spanish news. And so I can get to know what happens in the world from different sources. Because, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even my Turkish, to be honest, Arabic and French helped me a lot to learn Turkish. Arabic because of the influence, the old influence, and French because when they modernized or reformed the language in the 20s, they added a lot of French.
All right.
So actually, that was actually very helpful as well. But yeah, I have different associations with each language. Yeah. So Arabic's like my father, my Egyptian family, Middle East news affairs. Then English is, as I said, for everything, work as well. French is France, French politics, which I follow a lot. All my French friends. Portuguese, as I said, family, trip, holiday, Portugal. So you associate different things, yeah, and I do actually. Yeah.
That's right. But you don't speak Afrikaans, right?
No. But I mean, I'm South African on paper, but my ties to South Africa are mainly my mom's stories. That's how I know a lot of South Africa and food, I would say. But it's more my mom's stories because I never lived in South Africa.
That's right.
But although it's funny because some people they pick up South African when I speak English. Although I'm sure maybe none of you would say that. I don't know. But some people, even in the UK, sometimes pick up a bit of South African in the way I express some words.
Yes.
A little bit. Yeah.
I go along with you, Karim, there.
Okay.
A lot of people say to my daughter, you speak English, that's South African. And she says, Mom, why did they say that to me? And I said, well, it's just South African. Like she says, Mom, I'll see you now.
She still says that.
And no, we don't know when that is. But it's great listening to you because you're sort of the photocopy of my daughter with languages because she's also got them in compartments like this. South Africa too, this vakantietijd.
Yes, it is.
And then I've got quite a large number of family who live in Brazil. So there she goes she says, Mom, the sound of Portuguese is so different from Spanish. It's even more musical. And there she'll go off with them in a bit of Portuguese. All I can say is obrigadinho. And she has this Afrikaans is her time spent in South Africa and when Mum is very angry. Then she has her Italian because she studied in Italy. Then it's French, her Spanish, and me too. I learned Greek, modern Greek, which I can put on my map. And that is high school love, because I had a Greek boyfriend. And all the family went to CEST, Nayr, school in Johannesburg. And so, of course, I think it was family hoping that we'd get married, Jorgo and myself. So I started learning Greek. And it's beautiful. It's there. It's on the map. You're right. And whenever, for example, having a meal with Mario Rimbalukri was exactly living in a context like you're saying, Nayr.
Yeah.
I mean, I do use South African words sometimes. I still say robot instead of traffic light.
Yeah.
For example, I'm sure I do others unconsciously as well. That one I always remember it because it's pretty stark. No one gets it.
No one gets it. The robot's green. You say, what robot? Where's the robot?
It's the robot.
I know, but that's one that you really have to think about. But it's funny though, because we were obviously using these words quite naturally, and I hadn't even realized it. So he picked up robot, which is something that but I still do that. I mean, I'll be driving around, oh, but the robots, oh, and I still go, man, the robot's red, we will do that. And then we sort of have to think, okay, wait a minute, we've got other people around, so it's traffic light. But yeah, that's a good one. But it's always funny. Karim has this sort of nondescript kind of accent. I mean,
Yeah.
where would any of you place him in South Africa or somewhere because it's quite of a
No,
nondescript. Yeah.
no, I mean, sometimes some people pick French, those that understand French actually and speak French. Sometimes,
Mm.
oh, I see French. I say, yeah, yeah. I mean, but people don't. I think it's a like neutral international accent.
Yes, you have a neutral in English. You have a neutral accent. Yes.
Yeah,
Mm.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's and then because I thought that when he went to the UK, because he did his undergraduate in the UK, I thought, he's going to pick up British English. He never did.
No.
Well,
He
but
does
that
not.
sometimes, well, but it sometimes happens because, for example, my kids came here to Spain, although it's the same language or almost the same language. It's not exactly the same language. The vocabulary is very different, and the intonation, it's different. And for example, my eldest son, well, he was 20 when we came here, so he never lost his Argentine accent. But now, after 16, 17 years living in Galicia, sometimes he has a tinge of Galician there. And my youngest son, he was 13, and he hasn't lost his Argentine accent, but when he's with his friends, you can tell that you would say, well, he's Argentinian, but he's a very funny Argentinian. This is not, I mean, he turns Argentinian when he's with me, for example, when
Yeah.
he's at
Yeah.
home. But when
Yeah.
he's with his friends, he could sound like somebody from the Canary Islands, but I mean, not really Argentinian.
Yeah.
It's a mixture. It's a mixture, yes. And people are surprised that I haven't lost my Argentine accent, but I was over 40 when I came here, and I never wanted to change my accent.
Exactly. It's the fact that you didn't want to.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Same.
I mean,
Yeah.
because you listen to my husband. My husband came to Spain when he was 24, 25, and you listen to him speaking Spanish, and you would say he's from Madrid.
Yeah.
But I never lost my accent because I didn't want to. I mean,
Yeah.
I can have the sing song that is typical of Salamanca, for example, because all my friends are from here. So I have the sing song and the vocabulary. And people sometimes think I'm from the Canary Islands because they are puzzled by that. I don't sound really what they identify with Argentine Spanish, which is really from the city of Buenos Aires. I am not from Buenos Aires, so my Argentine Spanish is softer. And so added to that I have this charro, that is Salmantino sing song. Sometimes they are puzzled, but I haven't lost my accent. I mean, you can tell.
Yeah.
And even when I speak English, you can tell I'm not a native speaker of English. Say, okay, where are you from?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, people do the same with me, but for all my languages, which is hilarious. So, like in English, I think my English changed slightly when I left South Africa. I think I unconsciously accommodated, especially as I was working for the British Council and everything. So that changed a little bit. So but there's always something there. And I remember very clearly when I was like doing this, like having meetings and meeting like British Council colleagues, I would like start speaking, and then their face sort of went, oh. You could see they were trying to work out, wait a minute, where is she from? She's got this accent. She sounds British, but she's not. or she's not really British. You know what I mean? There was this kind of trying to work out where I was from, and then they would somehow take me down to the Southern Hemisphere, but they couldn't quite place me. And then to South Africa, blah, blah, blah. And then when I come to Portugal, same thing happens. So I've always imagined, I've always seen myself as a good Portuguese speaker because that is actually my mother tongue. I was speaking Portuguese because, for the first 5 years of my life, it was Portuguese that I spoke. And but when I come, so I speak, but at the moment, and even though I can speak Portuguese fine, I don't speak Portuguese every day. I only speak Portuguese when I talk to my mom on the phone, like every evening. Hi, how's it going? So what did you do today? Blah, blah, blah. Very simple. And then when I come back to Portugal, I have people also saying, like I had this one guy say, so where are you from? And I say, I'm Portuguese. Yes, 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 but you're not from here.
Oh,
Meaning from Portugal. And I said, oh God,
right.
I said, well, no, okay, no, I don't live in Portugal. No, I wasn't born in Portugal, but I am Portuguese, got Portuguese parents, trying to like sort of, and then they go, oh, but you speak Portuguese so well, when they find out I'm the daughter of an immigrant. But I said, yes, thank you.
Yeah. I
It's
should
like,
speak
yeah.
Portuguese well because actually I am Portuguese.
I know, but obviously there's something
Yeah,
in my intonation, maybe
yeah,
vowels that sort of I'm not quite there. And then sometimes I find myself speaking Portuguese, blah, 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 and then I get to the sort of middle of the sentence and I think, uh-oh, wrong sentence structure. Because I'm sort of speaking Portuguese with this English sentence structure. Now where do I go? How do I fix this problem? As I'm thinking. Da, 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 da. So I find myself in this situation all the
that's
time.
what I did. That's what I did when I was learning French. My
Mm,
teacher of French had been my mother's student,
yeah.
learning English. And I remember when first and second year of French, um, one day she said, Annie, you're thinking in English. No, she said, you're translating. And I said, no, I'm not, because I thought that translating was translating into Spanish. And she
Yeah.
said, and I said, no, I'm not. And she said, yes, you are. You are thinking in English. You are
Yeah.
making a sentence in French with
Yeah.
English syntax.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what I do a lot. Actually, I think I probably do that when I'm speaking Portuguese and I don't even realize it. Sometimes I realize it, and then that's when I go, okay, right, it's all wrong. And then sometimes I don't realize it, but people hear it, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, that's
And
right.
so there's either always comments either from even family, there's always comments from the family about my Portuguese. And sometimes what? I said, my Portuguese is fine, but it doesn't, yeah, it's not like theirs. So I'm always positioned outside. It's really funny. I don't know, you probably, you both of you probably feel the same.
Yeah,
You're there, but you're then always positioned outside of
yeah,
that
that's
particular
right.
language context.
My dad used to tell me when we talked on the phone, he said, oh, you're turning gallega. Because
Yes.
because he said that I had begun to speak Spanish like people here in Spain.
Mm,
You sound very gallega, he said, because for
yes.
Argentinians, all the Spanish are gallegos. So
Yes.
he used to say that, oh, you sound very gallega. And so sometimes it's like when Carolyn Duffy wrote that beautiful poem originally, and the last line is, when people ask me where I am from, I always ask originally, and that's what I do. I mean, when people
Yeah.
ask me where you're from, I say, well, originally, because
Mm.
mm, yeah,
I know.
No, no, it is, it is. Because even originally means what? Because,
that's
when
right.
I'm as an English teacher and I sound English, whatever English I sound like, I do sound English. That's the one language that I probably don't. I mean, I suppose the only interference would be the fact that I've got South African there somewhere, the South African sounds. But, you know, but the origin sometimes and especially with this native, non-native speaker thing that
Oh,
I try and break. I love telling people, actually, my mother tongue is Portuguese. That's good. You can,
Yeah.
oh, okay. So what the hell are you doing teaching English kind of thing? You know what I mean? So why do you sound like that? And then, just sort of, these are the stories. This is where these are, yeah, these are all our language stories, our culture stories,
Yeah.
and you don't have to be British or American or whatever. We are all of these things. And I then love to say that I am a non-native native speaker of English, because that is what I am. I am a native speaker of English because of my education in being born in South Africa, educated in South Africa. But I'm also a non-native speaker of English because that was not my mother tongue. The first 5 years of my life, I spoke Portuguese. And because I didn't go to preschool, and because my parents, I was always stuck at home with my mom, it was Portuguese. I developed very little English. So when I went to school, I couldn't really speak English. It was like, I was saying, where am I? What am I supposed to do? And it was like, I just saw my teacher like point. Okay, so she wants me to go over there, so let me go over there, kind of thing. So that's the experience I had. And I do remember, I mean, Karim says he doesn't remember these stories, but I do remember these stories of not understanding and not knowing what to say or how to say it. For example, we used to have, I don't know if you had this, Stefania, but we didn't have a canteen as such, but we had this, you could either order hot dog, hamburger, or toasted cheese. Did
Yes,
you have that?
yes.
Yes. And the hamburger was basically mincemeat, on a toasted bread with a
Yep.
bit of ketchup.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Tomato
remember
sauce.
tomato sauce, yes, that's it, tomato sauce, that's it. And I remember it's like they used to come around the classroom, what do you want? And for a couple, I don't know for how long, I didn't know how to say hamburger. But I had learned how to say toasted cheese. So I always ordered a toasted cheese because I didn't want anyone to know that I didn't know how to say hamburger. But I always looked at those hamburgers. Oh God, I really wanted a hamburger. I wanted one of those, but I didn't know how to say it. It was crazy. And then obviously I finally learned how to say hamburger, and then it was hamburgers all the time. But little things like that, which were related to my picking up English slowly but surely. And for example, I remember my mom kept my report cards. And when I found that out, I said, "Oh, that's interesting. Let me have a look at my grade one report card. What did my teachers write? Because I couldn't speak. I was learning English. I mean, Afrikaans then was in the mix. Portuguese is my home language. So I went to look at my report card, and the teacher wrote, Naya has a big language problem. Yeah, I must have had a big language problem at the time, because that was, and then eventually, but it took me, I remember with my English, I used to get C's in primary school, and then it took me the whole of primary school into secondary school to start getting A's and B's for English. And that's exactly what CALPS is about. It takes 5 to 7 years for a child to actually pick up the language, the academic language properly. And that's exactly what happened. And I think with Karim as well, even with Karim picking up those English and French and all the grammar of French,
Which is
you
quite
know, yeah, quite heavy. And it was difficult, I think, in primary. It was in secondary school that I think we finally noticed the two languages, it's French and English, sort of start developing as independent linguistic systems, and he started sort of positioning them where, because otherwise there was mixing. So which, I mean, mixing is not a problem, but when you have to write in French text only and there's mixing, then it becomes problematic for the French teacher. But it was in secondary school that you saw things sort of settle into their right places. The languages settle into their right places. So I don't know if you remember that, Karim. I don't know if that for you it made a difference, like the languages in primary or the languages in secondary. But that's what I noticed.
Yeah, I mean, no, French was always difficult academically at school, I find. I didn't have the greatest grades in French. Yeah.
But English you did.
Yeah,
You
English I
did
did.
very
Yeah.
well in English. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So, but that's also but that's also the approach used for
yeah.
teaching.
Very
Yeah,
different.
that made a big difference, I think.
Mm.
So,
Sorry, Nayr, when you
Yeah.
went to Kensington Catholic Church, okay,
yeah.
church I went to, Karim, by the way, just that I went many moons before your mummy did.
Okay.
Of age, okay? But we both went to the same Catholic church in Kensington, Johannesburg. Did you have your Holy Communion in Portuguese or in English?
In English.
Ah, in English.
Yeah, in English, because we did the whole thing through the school.
Ah, okay.
And yeah, because we had the whole scriptures, the religious studies, and yeah, they trained. So it was through that I did my communion and my confirmation through the English church.
And that was exactly a long time after I had my Holy Communion, because there was the Italian priest, Padre Simone.
Okay.
And so, and there was a Portuguese one as well.
There was always Portuguese mass
Yes, so there was a
at the
Portuguese
church.
Mass, Spanish, and Italian.
Mm.
So we had our Holy Communion, all Portuguese, Spanish, and Italian all on the same day. So you could also see the tradition coming into this, the way that we were dressed those years for Holy Communion. So yeah, that was interesting that the languages were also, focused on our religion.
Yeah, no, I didn't have that. I didn't have that because it was all. I mean, there was Portuguese mass, and I used to come to Portuguese mass because I was part of a youth group,
Yeah.
a Portuguese youth group. So we used to sing, play the guitar, and do the singing
Yeah.
in the Portuguese mass. And there was this group, so you're young, you want to be with young people, and that's why I used to go to Portuguese mass actually. And then otherwise it was all through the English. All the learning of the Our Father. I think I must have learned the Our Father before because my mom taught me how to say the Our Father in Portuguese. But
Yeah.
all those prayers and everything a lot of it was in English.
So I had to do everything in English. And then I think my mum and dad had a bit of a conversation and they decided I'm going to do my catechism in Italian.
Okay, that's
Because
interesting.
of
Yeah.
dad's religion, because of religion. So there is the religious factor as well. But I go along when you say that, she's not British, not American, Irish, no, Austrian. Okay, all right, I'm South African.
Yeah.
Very different from you because that was my first language, was
Yeah.
English, and then became Italian and English and Italian and Afrikaans, and it continued this way. But definitely, I think I owe all this to my parents and to South Africa, really, because
Yeah, me too.
it was also natural, wasn't it, Nayr? But
Yeah. If my parents hadn't gone to South Africa, I would just be Portuguese. I would be speaking Portuguese and in my generation with French as a foreign language. Because that's what they used to do in Portugal, is French was the first foreign language. Then English came in, but I would probably have had French as my first foreign language. And that would have been it. And it was basically, growing up in South Africa that it opened up all these doors to all the different languages. So, and I love the fact that I've got Portuguese, which is Romance languages, Afrikaans, which gives me access to the Germanic languages. Karim has not the Germanic languages. Hey, Karim, somehow you missed out on that one. No Germanic languages. But he's got the Semitic languages, though. He's got Arabic. So, so yeah, it was actually South Africa that growing up in South Africa that did that, and then it just became the natural thing. And Karim sort of grew up in that as well, even though we were in Portugal, but we just continued that,
I had to ask for permission to write Italian for matric.
Oh, wow. Okay. You did
Because
it in,
I did my Taalbond exams in
yeah.
Afrikaans. And of course, well, English was natural, and then Afrikaans Taalbond, and then I French, and then I had to ask for special permission to do
Mm.
Italian for matric as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that was Dad in a very nice way. But again, like you, it was never forced. But telling me all the history, the geography of Italy.
Yes. Yeah. I did that because my mom put me in Portuguese school. It was an out of school thing. And at first it was like, oh my God, I can't believe she's putting me in Portuguese school. I hated the idea.
Yeah.
And then I suddenly realized, but hold on a minute, this is really interesting. I was learning. First of all, it wasn't as difficult to pick up the language because I could speak it really well. And I really understood the concept of reading and writing. So it was really easy. So, oh, this is easy. This is okay. I could really make it out, okay, great. Then, yes, I learned the history of Portugal, the geography of Portugal, and I loved it. And it was a kind of discovery. It wasn't just this language that my parents spoke to me and how embarrassing that my parents don't speak English like all the other girls in the school. I suddenly realized that Portugal was a hell of a country with a history that spanned like thousands of years and all the things they did, the thinkers, the writers, the poets. And I discovered the culture. And it allowed me to be proud of that culture.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I wasn't rejecting it anymore. It was a kind of, well, hold on a minute, there's something here. There's this. And then there was this connection with South Africa, with Bartholomew Dias and
There
Vasco da
you go.
Gama, and that
Angola
thing.
and Mozambique.
Angola, Mozambique. So there was this. So we started looking at all these things, and I thought this is really interesting. This whole culture thing, and I really think that made a big difference in how growing up as the daughter of immigrants in
Yeah.
in South Africa. It made a big difference of how I connected with Portugal. I connected with Portugal much more positively, understanding it from an historical and cultural perspective. So that's why another thing I tell, it's so important is to tell the parents, do teach the children how to read and write your languages. Because, I mean, it's like Karim, when you did Arabic, didn't that sort of really open up doors to understanding
Okay.
the Arab world?
Yeah, a lot. No, a lot. Because I was quite disconnected from it linguistically. So, no, it
Yeah.
was because I was regretting not being able to be fluent in Arabic. So, and then since then, now, yes, I mean, it's great.
Yeah. And it gave you your jobs. Actually,
Yeah,
it
well,
was,
Yeah, it helped as well.
professionally, it opens the world up for you.
Yeah,
yeah,
it does.
Of
yeah,
course. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm. Ladies
yeah,
and gentlemen, I mean, this has been a lovely conversation. I
Absolutely.
mean, it's a pity not other people are missing this because this is so rich, so
yeah,
rich. But well, it's their loss. I've
yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
I've really
Mm.
enjoyed this conversation, Karim. It's been a pleasure to
No,
meet
thank
you,
you.
and I
Likewise, thank
hope
you for having me.
I can meet you in person someday. And
Yes.
Nayr and Steffi, it's always lovely to see you.
Oh, it's always great.
Yeah.
Uh,
No.
Nayr is Nayr last week. I had an API workshop on mindfulness and on teacher well-being.
Yes.
My connections with Portuguese were there. This is how I started, how important connections are. Because Mrs. Da Cunha, Rosie's mum, would come on a Sunday with pastella.
Pastéis de nata.
Pastéis de nata. Oh my God.
Yes.
Addictive.
And I said, my connection with Portugal. I feel I'm happy because there in South Africa, this is the community I grew up with, the Portuguese and the Spanish. And I even said, and Nayr Ibrahim, who I'm sure you all know very well, we went to the same Catholic church, only she was long after I did.
I know, it's great. But
I,
it's great that you joined, Stefania, because we have
Yes.
so many common, isn't it? We have so much in
Yeah.
common in our
yes, I mean,
history and the languages.
the fact that we both have a child, I have a daughter, you have a son, who
Mm,
uh, so naturally and so comfortably are exposed to any culture. Even my daughter, she doesn't mind if what she's having in England looks like mashed potatoes, but really it's pasta that's been overcooked. Because they
mm.
go beyond this.
Yeah.
A- a-
Yeah,
a-
yeah,
they're able to accept and communicate with the majority, with everybody, and they haven't got a sort of one-track mind or, you know,
yeah, 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 yeah. And it's how you manage your cultures and your languages. And Karim is
Yeah.
really brilliant at that, I have to admit. I mean, I have to say, he just sort of navigates. It's this whole navigating between and in between and with and without. And
A
they
citizen
just
of
do
the
it
world.
brilliantly.
A
Yeah,
citizen of the world. It's
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
colleague of my daughter's is Egyptian, and she's very happy to practice medicine in Switzerland, mainly because of the multicultural group, her team. There's an Armenian doctor, an Egyptian one, one that's French, and they mainly communicate, as Karim said, all in English, okay? But these languages are there, the culture is there, and they share it.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they're able to share their values, their beliefs, and to build and grow together.
And we so need that in the world today.
Ooh,
We so need that in the world today.
absolutely.
So let's continue bringing up these wonderful
Yeah.
multilingual kids, and
Yeah.
hopefully that'll help change
Yeah.
the world. So,
I
you know,
hope so.
but thank you for inviting us,
Oh, it's
Annie.
been
You
a
know, it's
pleasure.
always
It's been a
a
pleasure.
pleasure, and I love doing this with Karim. So, you know, Karim's my,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know,
Because we don't generally have, I mean, sometimes well, most of the times we talk as teachers.
yeah.
But now I was really interested in looking at the mother-son side of
Mm,
languages
mm,
because
yeah,
it's so
yeah.
so interesting, and I think that it's so useful for parents.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, if you want to
All
share
of
this,
it.
I'd be quite happy because, you know, I think sometimes people need to hear these
Yeah.
stories, these personal stories, in order to make it okay for them to do their own. Say, oh, okay, so maybe I'll do it because it worked. It worked over there. I think it's really important, and it's not just me; it's me and Stefania. We both have the same
Oh
story to
yes.
tell. So,
Yeah. Sure.
so
Yeah.
it's
It's
really great, you know.
You're right.
it's wonderful.
We
Mm.
have real witnesses,
That's it.
Yes, we do.
That's it.
We
and
do.
they're smiling, young, good-looking like Karim. Um, I think, and they haven't been traumatized
No.
That's
by
right.
kids or mothers
Okay.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
or families. They
Mm.
they had smart enough parents, I
Yeah.
think,
Mm.
background.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And
very
Absolutely.
important. Yeah.
this is
Absolutely.
also something
Yeah.
that has to be taken into
Mm.
consideration.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
couple of years ago, my daughter came home and she said, Mom, I've got to thank you. I thought, oh, now what has she been up to? Because very rarely do our children say, you know, Mom, I've got to thank
Yeah.
you. So, she said, thank you for always having spoken in English to me, because today we had a professor come in to give us a lecture. I said, and I looked around and I was the only one taking notes, and the others had a blank face. So I said, oh, okay, Georgia, I'm glad about that. Thank you, darling. So,
Yeah.
I think I'll never forget that moment anyway.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it
Well,
is. It's
my daughter, when my daughter she was in Buenos Aires, and she calls me and she says, "Mom, I got this job in General Electric." And she said, yeah, "Oh, and what are you going to do there?" She was beginning to study at the university. and say, I'm going to be in international finance. Excuse me? Doing what? International finance? What do you know about international finance? Nothing. But my boss said that she can teach me the job, but she needs somebody who can speak English the way I do.
Yeah, so it's the language, yeah.
So I said, okay, at least I did one thing right as a mother.
Yeah. But just one thing to add, I mean, English is great and it's really, really important, but Karim got a lot of his jobs because he spoke other languages, not
That's
English.
right.
English was sort of, yeah, it's there. But because of his Arabic, because of his other languages,
That's
that's
right.
how he got his job. So languages are very
Languages are
important.
important, yes. My daughter started learning Portuguese before she met who was going to be her husband. And that was another asset. I mean,
Yeah.
because she had
Yeah.
3 languages, Spanish, Portuguese, and English. And I said, okay, well, now she doesn't have time for anything else with the children and the work. But it would be great if she could go on studying other languages. It would be really good for her. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank
So,
you again.
thank you,
It was
Nayr. I'll
great
see you
chatting.
around.
So
Karim, it
much.
was lovely
Thank you.
meeting you.
Thank you.
And
Same.
Yes.
congratulations. Jy moet Suid-Afrika toe gaan en 'n
Ja.
bietjie braai.
Een beetje braai, een beetje braai. Ik ga naar Zuid-Afrika. Oh god, next year. How do I say next year?
Volgende jaar.
Ja, volgende jaar. Ja. Ik heb een conferentie in Stellenbosch. In Stellenbosch. I hope. I'm still waiting for the thing.
Wees.
Ja, dus daar, ja, dat is lekker. Ja.
Ek hoop om te gaan. My dogter was daar in Januarie en sy wil Kaapstad toe gaan werk, maar ek het vir haar gesê,
Okay.
wag net
Interesting.
'n bietjie.
Yeah.
So
if we go,
we could be talking Cape
yeah,
Town.
but just
Because
That's it.
we
I
can't
know. I think we need to
understand.
make sure it's English so we don't.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
It's good to
Anyway,
hear
it
another
was lovely.
language.
Yeah.
Bye.
Ciao.
Thank you so much.
Lovely.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.